Welcome to TV Toastmasters, The Right Stuff. I'm your host, Ken Coomes, and I have the pleasure in this episode of interviewing Arlene Cogen, a wonderful lady who's been successful in many ways, and we'll get to know some of those during this episode. So please welcome Arlene Cogen. Thank you, Arlene, for being on the show.
Ken, it is a pleasure to be here.
It is truly my delight to have you on the show. I've enjoyed your book. I've enjoyed hearing you speak. I alluded to those many successful career ventures you've had. And I find it interesting, I think our viewers will, that you went from being a successful financial planner on Wall Street to motivational speaking to writing. Perhaps I have the sequence incorrect. I'm curious as to what led you from Wall Street and financial behemoths speaking motivationally to people.
Ken, first of all, thank you so much for having me on The Right Stuff. It is a pleasure to be here and share with your audience about my interesting journey that may seem a little odd, but when I tell the story, I think you'll get to understand it. You interested?
I'm very interested, and I'm sure our viewers are as well. So please tell us this story.
Yeah, so I was on Wall Street in the 80s, and I helped wealthy people preserve and grow their money, and it was a blast. You know, back then, martini lunches. Then I met my fabulous husband, and we had two amazing daughters. And while I had this amazing career on Wall Street, I experienced sexual harassment, the glass ceiling, and wage discrimination. And you know what, Ken? Having two daughters put a new focus on my life because I didn't want my girls to have to deal with those ugly things. I wanted them to know they could do whatever they wanted, enjoy what they did, and get paid well. So when we moved from the East Coast to the West Coast to be close to family, I stayed home for a little bit and then wanted to go back to work and saw a career coach. Well, lo and behold, everything came up, philanthropy and benevolence. And I looked at my career coach. How do you make money at that? Ken, after working on Wall Street and making a lot of money, everything I knew about working for a charitable organization was you love what you do and you got paid nothing. I jumped right back into the trust and investment world when we moved to Oregon, and I looked diligently, and it took me 5 years before I found a position with the Oregon Communities Foundation. It's the largest nonprofit in the state and could pay a decent salary. So I was able to lead by example for my daughters. But I also knew that while I was helping people make charitable gifts and make a difference in the world, the community, and the causes they care about, I also knew that there was more and people needed to learn how to give. No one broke it down into simple matters. So I wanted to teach them. And I also knew that going out on my own, I'd be able to, quite honestly, make more money. So now I get to help people make a difference, and I get to have a direct result of my paycheck. And that's kind of the story of me going out from Wall Street to motivational and inspirational speaker and best-selling author of Give to Live, Make a Charitable Gift You Never Imagined.
Arlene, that is a very interesting story, as we suspected it would be. And I thank you for sharing it. And I'm going to segue now, since you talked about your book, Give to Live. I know our viewers haven't had a chance yet, if they haven't heard from you, to perhaps pick it up and read it, although some have. I loved it. One of the few books I would recommend to anyone, because not only of its great content that applies to everyone, but your excellent writing style. But I can just hear our viewers thinking, well, I know COVID-19 and it's a great time to give, but where do I give? What would you say to
Yeah.
them first?
Yeah, and you're right. Everywhere you look, there is loss. Our healthcare system is collapsing. Our economy is collapsing. Where should I give now? And here are my top 3 tips on where to give now. My first tip, Ken, is give to organizations you already give to. You already know, like, and trust them, whether it be the environment, education, healthcare. There's loss everywhere. So keep giving where you give. Number 2, look locally for COVID funds that will help your community. For example, the Oregon Community Foundation is raising money to address issues around the state dealing directly with COVID-19. I worked there 9 years. They're an amazing organization. That is a wonderful public place to give. And finally, number 3, I recommend you give to organizations who are dealing on a global level, like the World Health Organization. To get through this virus, we need to have testing and research on a global level. Those are my top 3 suggestions for giving during COVID-19.
Arlene, those are 3 great suggestions, and I thank you for those. I'm trying to put myself in the mind of our viewers again and ask questions that maybe they would be interested in, and that's a great start and great answers about where to give. And if I remember correctly, the number 2 point you were talking about, when beyond giving to where you already give, you talked about some local places, and you talked about the Oregon Charitable Foundation as a great source. So it's good to know that's there. You talked about all the loss, and there are a lot of people that have a lot of loss because of job situations, because of inability to have childcare, because of the schools. Everything's interrelated. And so if they're feeling like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the ability to give, I'm just not sure about it, what do you want to say to them?
Well, first of all, after spending 20 years in the trust and investment world and 9 years in nonprofit, fund development, I have heard so many times that charity begins at home, right? Do you agree with me, Ken?
Well, I've heard that a lot myself.
And it's true. I am not going to disagree with anyone, because charity does begin at home. And until we feel good and comfortable with how we are taking care of our family, it's challenging to look beyond giving. But there are many ways that we can look beyond giving once we realize what's key and important to us. So I always like to say, people just don't know what the charitable options are. And quite honestly, for most people, Ken, the biggest gift they're ever going to make is at the end of their life and during their estate plan. And that's how you can make a charitable gift you never imagined.
Excellent point. I'll refer to something in your book that I thought was perfectly appropriate. It deals with this charity beginning at home and today's situation. You brought in Maslow's hierarchy of need, addressing the fact that a person needs to assess where they are on that pyramid to decide how much they can give and where they need to give. And I thought that was well done in your book and made simple for people that maybe haven't heard of that hierarchy before. But what is the best way to give? Is there one best way?
And now I'm going to take a financial lens on it, being a certified financial planner. One of the best, and there's so many tools that we can use to give. You could give outright, you could give a house, you could give through your trust, you could give property. But the best way to give is through a beneficiary designation in a retirement account. And here's why it's the best way to give. First of all, it's really super flexible. It doesn't cost anything to change it, so it's free. And you can probably download the form or contact your advisor, your bank, and they can send you the form. You could DocuSign it, you could fax it back, you could change it every day, every week, every month. It's a fabulous tool. And the reason why is because it's the most tax advantaged tool you can give through. When you die, the government will add it into your estate, and they will add it as part of your taxable estate. Now in Oregon, that starts at $1 million, unlike the federal level, which is at, $5 million plus dollars. The other reason why is because it gets taxed again. If you were to leave that beneficiary designation, that IRA, to your child, when that income is distributed to them, Ken, they are paying income tax on it. So you could get taxed twice. So leaving the charitable gift through a beneficiary designation in a retirement account is the best way for you to make a charitable gift.
So there is one best way, and you've just told it what it is, and I thank you for all our viewers and for myself. I want to point out, too, that if they acquire your book, Give to Live, you talk about that in that book.
Yes, I do.
Now, I know some people, I've heard some people actually in conversations talk to me, and they say, yeah, well, you can give to this and you can give to that, but all they do is they take a bunch of money, pay themselves, and maybe give a little bit to the cause you're concerned about. Well, there's some lack of trust among some people. So what do you advise to people when they're talking about giving to charitable organizations and they have trouble picking out who to give to?
Well, and I can totally appreciate that donors are scared to give to nonprofit organizations. When I went from corporate America to nonprofit work, I had a huge learning curve. And I noticed that I came in with the lens of a business person into the nonprofit organization. And you can't have the same lens for business that you do in a nonprofit. I've never been in organizations or seen in organizations people work harder, who are not appreciated enough for no money. And these people will give money that they think is a lot, but to report on it and how it was used, they don't have the time to do it. It's a waste of the nonprofit's time. And people want to see this impact. And during COVID-19, throw that out of the water, please. Just throw it out and give, because they need to pay their employees. They're all cutting back, but don't just focus on the services. You have to keep the lights on too. Don't be scared. Give generously.
Excellent point, Arlene, is that nonprofit has people, and those people need to eat, and they need to take care of their families. So, well said. I think that was an excellent point. I think we're going to take a short break here now. So, viewers, we'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Eric Bergman. As a member of TV Toastmasters, I get to learn all about video production, running a TV show. Plus, I get to be on camera interviewing really fascinating Toastmasters who share their stories about their hobbies, their activities, and how they benefit our community. I also get to bring in members of my home Toastmasters club. We toasted in Lake Oswego. They get to tell their stories and build their communication skills. We're bringing a voice for District 7 Toastmasters here in Oregon and Southwest Washington to a TV audience. And TV Toastmasters is a great way to learn how to spread your message and share your stories with a wider audience.
Welcome back to The Right Stuff. We're talking with Arlene Cogen about charitable giving and her book, Give to Live, as well as life tips and her experiences she's had along the way. Welcome back, Arlene. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be back.
We've talked a little bit about your book, your Wall Street career, the fact that you wrote a best-selling book, Give to Live, and then we've talked about that book a little bit. And you've given us some excellent advice and answered some questions for our readers. Because it's the right stuff, and we focus on the writing industry a lot, I'm sure some of our viewers are curious about the path to publication you chose, because there are many ways to get published these days. You went with Niche Pressworks, I believe, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about why you chose that path and how it was for you and what you learned along the way.
I would be delighted to share with you why I chose Niche Pressworks. Niche Pressworks is a self-publisher, and the woman, Nicole Gephardt, who runs Niche Pressworks, has an amazing marketing platform that attracted me to work with her. And let me share a little bit more about her marketing platform. One, I wrote a book. Ken, I had written a book with my friend who helped me write a book. And I wanted to market it, and I wanted to become a bestseller because I knew I wanted to use it in the back of the room as a speaker. And I'm interviewing all the different types of self-publishers. I chose self-publishing because I would make a better margin. Here I am, back to making money again, a better margin self-publishing than going through a publisher. So I get on the phone with a couple others. It's not clicking. I get on the phone with Nicole, and within 20 minutes, she tells me I've written the wrong book to the wrong audience. And she was right. Nicole was right, and I had to hire a book coach to rewrite the book in attempts. Instead of originally it was geared towards professional advisors, CPAs, attorneys, etc. She told me, Arlene, you have to make it for the reader. Make it for people like Ken, so when they read the book, they say, oh, this is really easy to read. I understand this. This makes sense to me. So I rewrote the whole book, and they edited, they made suggestions, they helped me organize it, they helped me with the cover and all the crafting. And it was hard, long work because I am not a natural writer. But I can tell you that working with Nicole and her team made the book better than I ever imagined. And that is how I chose Niche Pressworks, because they brought me to a level that was better than I could have hoped for on my own.
Great story. Great story. Appreciate you sharing that. It makes perfect sense. And I appreciated the way the book is written. So I didn't see the first copy, but the current copy that went out there is well written for me and people like me. It's a good time to remind our authors and wannabe authors in our audience, as we've said before, don't sell your first draft. I just pulled my first 3 novels off the shelves so that I could rewrite them, knowing that they could be better. And they weren't my first draft. They won't be my second or third, but by the time I re-release them, they will be in much better shape. So thank you for that advice. Now,
You know, one more thing, Ken. Nicole recommended the book be under 150 pages if you wanted people to read it, which as a non-writer worked for me.
nonfiction about one topic. So in your book, in addition to talking about charitable giving and how to give charitably and all the benefits while alive, not just after you pass on and leave a legacy, I found it valuable that you talked about how to choose an advisor. Would you care to share some of that with our audience tonight?
Yes. Yes, Ken, I would be delighted to share that with the audience. How to choose and work with an advisor, whether it be a financial advisor, a CPA, an estate planning attorney, insurance person. These are critical experts that you need to work with to fulfill your personal, financial, and charitable goals. The key thing is, do you know, like, and trust them? So do you know them? Where did you hear about them? What is their presence? Is it a referral from a friend? You know, do all that kind of research. Do you know, like, and trust them? Look at their website. Where are they? Are they working in the community? And, you know, do they resonate with you? Do you have the same values? Can they hear you? Are they listening to you, or just kind of pushing you along? When you really look at and go through and follow your heart, one, there's a lot of great advisors out there that want to help and make a difference, and interview with them until you find someone who speaks your language.
Great advice. I appreciate it in the book. I appreciate it in person. And it is very important to have an advisor, because we're not all experts in this field at all. And those advisors are out there for a reason. And you make an excellent point. You need to know them and trust them. And it's important to have shared values so that they're helping you and guiding you in a path that you're going to be comfortable with and pleased with along the way.
Yeah.
Now, we've
And
talked
Ken,
about.
may I share?
Sure.
Oh. Ken, may I share that while I'm a certified financial planner, I no longer manage my own money because it is not my focus. So it's okay to get expert help on the matters you need.
Well said, and it's important. I'm an engineer and I studied a lot of math. I hire a CPA to do my taxes because they know what they're doing a lot more than I do, and it's valuable. It's worth the money and the time. I found one I trusted, and that was very important. So we've talked a lot about your book, Give to Live. I believe I would be surprised if there was an audience out there that did not want to know where they could get that book. So can you tell us a little bit about where they can find Give to Live?
Well, yes, Ken, I can certainly tell you where. You can head to my website, arlenecogen.com, or you can find Give to Live on Amazon.com as well.
Thank you, Arlene. So we can find it at arlenecogen.com or amazon.com to find your book, your best-selling book, all about charitable giving. The book is called Give to Live, and Arlene is the excellent author of that book. I said earlier, and I'll say it again, this is a book I would recommend to everyone. Most books don't fall into that category for me, but the content and the writing apply to so many people. I can't think of anyone I would not recommend this book to. The best way to contact you is perhaps through your website as well, or is there another way?
You can contact me at my website. Please feel free to reach out directly to me at 503-957-8334.
Arlene, thank you. We've been speaking with Arlene Cogen, best-selling author of the book, Give to Live. A person who has had success in many venues, has great values in my opinion, shares a lot of important stuff in her book, addressed to everyone, not just to financial planners, not just to experts in the field, not just to CPAs. As a matter of fact, it's purposely written for people like you and me so that we can learn how to give to live. This is Ken Coomes, TV Toastmasters, The Right Stuff. Thank you again for viewing, and we'll see you next time.
Hello everyone, my name is Christopher Taylor and I'm with TV Toastmasters. My home group is Feedbackers in Beaverton, Oregon. I first joined Toastmasters for a couple reasons. I was nervous. I had trouble speaking in front of others. I needed some help. And when I joined Toastmasters, not knowing what to expect, I learned several things. One, it gave me the confidence to speak in front of others. I learned how to take constructive criticism. I benefited from that. That benefit was the confidence to get a job. When I took the suggestions in the club, when I started speaking in front of a group and remained speaking through my role, doing table topics, getting topics that you're unaware, learning how to think on your feet, learning how to speak on your feet. I first started working managing the Berkshire Hathaway account. I started as a back office role, not the face of the company. It didn't take long until I was dealing directly with the executives. Today I give executive briefings for the rising enterprise in the highest level of enterprise space. And I'm grateful and I owe all of that to